I was gardening in my backyard when I noticed the stray cat watching me from under the bushes. A Siamese, with creamy fur, chocolate-dipped ear tips, and pretty blue eyes, but scruffy looking and thin, with no collar. She sat for a long time, those blue eyes fixed on me as I moved from one flower bed to the next. Each time I moved toward her, she'd hiss and run away, but then sit down again. I thought she might be hungry, so I went inside to find something a cat might like. I threw a hot dog over by her, and she devoured it. 3 hot dogs later, she seemed satisfied, and she wandered off. She came back the next day, and the next. After I ran out of hot dogs, I bought a little package of cat chow, thinking she'd probably disappear before the bag was empty. But she kept coming back, and I named her Rumble, a tough-sounding name for an unfriendly cat who'd had a hard life. The routine was the same each day. Rumble would show up and sit somewhere in the yard where I could see her. I could tell she expected the food, which was now a can of wet food along with the dry food, served on a paper plate. I set out an old Cool Whip container full of water, too. When I brought her food, I'd say, "You're a pretty girl, Rumble Tumble," and she'd hiss at me a few times. If I moved too fast or reached my hand out, she'd run away, and she wouldn't start to eat until I was a few steps away. She spent sunny afternoons laying in the flowers and stretched out on the grass under my trees. I don't know where she went when she left the yard. There are fields and stands of trees around the house, and when I tried to follow her, she'd quickly disappear in the tall grass. Once I was driving out of the neighborhood and I saw her sitting on the side of the road. We meaningfully locked eyes for a moment. Then she blinked, and I drove on. She kept coming back as the nights got cold and the snow fell, and sometimes her water dish was frozen over in the morning. I'd just plonk out the frozen ice onto the ground and refill the dish with fresh water. One evening, a cold rainstorm made puddles on the ground. Overnight, the temperature dropped and a snowstorm blew in, whipping wet snow around all night while the wind howled. In the morning, everything was white. Every tree limb was stiff with glittering ice, and my car doors were frozen shut. I looked in the backyard and saw Rumble sitting on a frozen puddle next to her frozen water dish. She stood up and turned around, put her head down to the ice for a minute, and then sat down again. I watched for a few minutes as she repeated this behavior, trying to figure out what the heck she was doing. And then I saw it. She sat on the ice until it melted from her body heat, then turned around to lap up the melted water and sat down again until more ice melted, just so she could drink. My heart sank, and I took her food right out and replaced the icy chunk in her water dish with some warm water. Then I pried open my car door and drove straight to the pet store, where I purchased a heated water dish, the kind that plugs into an outlet. I'd actually thought about getting one before, but hesitated because of the price. But now it gives me such peace of mind to know that whatever the weather, day or night, Rumble has access to liquid water. The next weekend, I also bought a large Coleman cooler, on clearance pricing since summer was long gone. I cut 2 holes in it, so if another animal chases her, she won't get trapped, and I put a bunch of straw inside. It took a few days before she was even brave enough to check it out, but now she uses it to sleep in, and it gives her shelter from the wind and rain. It's been years now, and even though I have other friendly cats, Rumble's still a wild little thing, and she still hisses at me every time I feed her. I know she's only here for the food, and she's never going to be a cuddly house cat, but she's stolen my heart, and I love the tough little kitty named Rumble.